Okay, we're here in the studio today with Cari Robaldo, a graduate of Ringling College of Art and Design from the illustration program. Tell us a little bit about her work, her portfolio, her background. Talk a little bit about the illustration program at Ringling. What was your review of it? That sort of thing. And then just what you have on the horizon. You know, what you have a new job coming up this week.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
Today, I think I'm having a meeting.
Okay, so we're getting going.
Soon, yeah.
We're going to make good use of your time then here. So, Cari, thank you so much for coming in. Why don't you just give us the kind of background, where you're from, and then what brought you to Ringling?
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This space is really beautiful.
Hey, thanks.
So, I grew up in an art studio. My mom is an illustrator. She went to Parsons in the 80s and got a degree also in illustration.
Nice.
So
Okay.
it was just kind of already going to happen for me. Yeah. You know, she always gave me art supplies from when I was super small and just said, have at it, you know, go for it. So I learned to express myself creatively in a visual way very early on.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I did experiment with performing arts and dancing and writing, just always looking for new ways to be creative, but definitely settled back into illustration when it was like time to get serious about going to college.
Okay.
It just, that major in particular felt like the most encompassing for like learning the digital stuff and working with the traditional media that I had been accustomed to up till that point. And going to Ringling just made the most sense because of course it's a wonderful art college. It's like very highly rated. They're a very technologically based campus. And it's on the beach, which you can't beat. And it's close to my family, which was important to me because I'm an only child and I don't really think they'd like it if I went really far away.
Break your poor mother's heart, yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you drew a lot as a kid then?
Yes, all the time. And my mom would have me enter into contests that, like drawing contests that I couldn't even win because I was too young. I was homeschooled for a few years, so that also added to the sort of like self-directed education thing. I even at one point wrote this entire book called Sally Snowy Shares Her Story, and it was about seabirds and in Florida, and drew the whole thing out and entered it into this contest for the Sierra Club that it was like I was 10 and you had to be 13 to enter. Things like that. Just all the time drawing and drawing.
So Ringling was a no-brainer. You're living just up the road in St. Pete, got one of the best art schools in the world right here. What year did you enter Ringling?
I guess it was 2013,
2013, okay. So a full 4 years. Give us kind of the trajectory of the program. I mean, it sounds like you're a bit of a prodigy, like you were pretty far along when you got there. Did you feel that way?
No,
like,
I totally didn't feel
that
way. Absolutely not. I had never done real figure drawing before, so that was just daunting because it's like they just throw you into the first class and then the model's up there and it's like, okay, go. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I had to play catch up, I felt like, at least the first couple years. I mean, it's always really hard to judge yourself, but I didn't feel like I was.
But you can see your peers, right?
Anyway,
you can see how
that's the thing. You look at your peers and you're like, oh my God, their work is so good. I want to try doing what they're doing.
A lot of people came in with pretty strong technical skill sets.
Well, okay, I have to back up a little to say that if you're in the illustration program, you do figure drawing at least for 3 years, if not your full 4. I chose to always keep it in my curriculum, even when it was technically no longer required. But the first few years, you have to do figure drawing. So in general, it starts with you learn the shorter poses first, and then they get into really breaking down how to look at proportions and how to draw hands, how to draw feet, how to draw the head. And from there, once you kind of have that down, then you get into the longer form drawings, and then studies of specific parts like I was talking about, and then you get into figure painting, and you take all that you learned and then just add that whole other level of complication.
Sure. You know, illustration programs are interesting to me because on the back end of it, and get your perspective on it, it seems like people break off into different parts of the economy a little bit. If you're going to go work in feature films and be a character designer or an environment artist, or a concept artist, that is kind of a niche unto itself that, or if you're going to do storyboarding, there's some strengths and things you need to be really good at.
Right.
Versus maybe people that are a little more in tune to graphic design, visual communication side of it, and they're going to go into an advertising, communications context or editorial, magazine cover type of stuff. Where do you feel like most of your peers were taking it? And then what about your portfolio? How would you describe your portfolio within that larger umbrella of illustration?
That is a great question. You sort of like super hit on something at Ringling, especially within the illustration department, because the illustration department is so big. It's like, I think
it's a broad skill set. Just learning to draw. Like there's a lot of ways that can be utilized.
Yeah, absolutely. My class, my freshman year, we had, I think, about 130 students.
Wow. And
I think we finished with maybe 100-ish.
That's got to be one of the bigger programs.
It's the largest program at Ringling. Yeah, wow. Absolutely. So, yeah, you did feel like there were a bunch of people doing completely off on their own path sort of things, but at the same time, I felt like a lot of the attention was drawn toward visual development. I think they're either developing that into a minor or it already is now. That was kind of happening while I was graduating. That new process was coming in, but a lot of people seemed like they wanted to be concept artists or storyboarders. A little less.
That's the fun stuff, I guess.
Go
work in Hollywood.
Right. A little less of the graphic design stuff I saw within our major. Maybe some more of the editorial illustration appealed to people. And it was a lot of digital art. I didn't see a whole lot of people going completely traditional. And so sometimes when I was doing traditional work, I felt definitely like an outlier. But I think that I could have used more graphic design courses while I was there, looking at it now, because I tried a bunch of different things. And I think my website, like my portfolio right now, reflects that. I have like 10 different styles. Because I really was not hyper-focused on what was going to happen after I graduated. Because that was just too stressful of a concept. That was daunting. So it's like, I'm just going to try a bunch of different things.
Which is probably good,
And so I feel like a lot of my peers honed in on a specific style right away. And then they just kept getting better at that one style. And that was intimidating. So it's like, oh my gosh, you know, these guys are going to get out of here and just immediately get a job. And I didn't do that. I tried a bunch of different things. I tried a music branding class. That was a lot of fun. I did a lot of...
It'd be like record album covers.
And it was like you made up your own band and designed all the branding for them. So again, I picked the fun classes and I learned a lot.
What was the band you came up with?
Well, it was called Quirkle. And it was super weird. So that's another thing. It looks bizarre.
Indie folk kind of music. What were you imagining the music?
Yeah, I imagined like lo-fi punkish kind of.
Nice.
I mean, like I had a lot of rainbow and neon and purposefully bad typography, but I got to get away with it, you know, so it was fun. So it's like maybe not something I can apply to my portfolio in terms of showing people, but I do show people, but you know, I appreciate that I learned a bunch of different things now, because now I see that it's like, well, maybe being a concept artist is not going to be in my future with a major company immediately, at least, because it's very competitive and they are looking for...
highly niche skill.
Yes, exactly. But I'm finding that branching out and doing other things now is helping me, because I can get a commission for a traditional oil painting, or I can get a commission for a digital advertisement, and now I kind of know how to do both of those things. But like I said, the design and typography, I could have taken more advantage of taking those kinds of courses within the graphic design department. So that's not a Ringling thing, that's a me thing. I didn't pick the right courses, but working at Whole Foods did sort of supplement what I was lacking when I left Ringling, I feel like. The experience of working with the programs.
It's probably super common challenge for students. I mean, we see it even in motion design, which again is a pretty bad term almost, because there's so many, you know, specific niche roles that people need to fill within that. And for our students, we typically break it into like the economic sectors of like, if you want to go to LA and be in that world, like there's some really specific requirements, and you're competing with people who very often are like hyper focused on a single lane. But you know, I think we had a diagram at one point of like, you start out really broad and then like start to narrow over time, typically when you have to, which is when you have to like pay the bills and get a job, and then or if you're just really on fire for one specific thing. If you absolutely love visual development, then I guess it's an easy choice for students to go into that. But so tell me about the Whole Foods job. It sounds really cool. I'm almost a little jealous because you're getting to design for spaces, like stuff that's going up, you know, kind of in an environment. So tell me a little bit about kind of how the opportunity came about and then your experience there.
Well, I had always loved Whole Foods.
Yes.
Going to Ringling, you know, 10 minutes from me is this cute little store with hand-drawn chalk signs and like, it's got food that I want to eat, you know, and because, you know, I'm a millennial, so I'm a vegan, so I have to be like, I need my fake cheese and my fake milk.
Do they have good vegan options?
They do.
That's good.
They do.
Okay.
but so I've always loved Whole Foods, and I had noticed that they had hand-done chalk signs.
Okay.
And so it just happened to be that they were building a new store on University right when I was looking for a job.
It's madness out there. It's always lots of people.
Yes. Oh, yeah, the traffic's terrible.
Yes.
But it was really good timing for that, and I had even looked at the Whole Foods website before, like the Workday, like the hiring website.
Yes.
Because I was just like, do they want an artist anywhere?
Yes.
And I was looking at even moving to a different Florida store.
Okay.
And then, you know, it just happened to be that I got the call that I was able to come interview for the one that was opening up 10 minutes from my house.
Perfect.
And it was going to be a new store, so I was going to help with the store opening.
Did they post it as an illustration gig, or did it say graphic design?
It's officially store graphic artist.
Graphic artist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think they said it was like 40 or 50 something people applied.
Wow.
Yeah, and to even interview, I had to do 2 art tests. I had to design a flyer with InDesign, and then I had to make a hand-drawn chalkboard advertising a weekly seafood sale.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I had to bring that with me to my interview, which
so
was
you had to go
a group
out and like
interview.
buy a chalkboard and like.
Yeah,
no
the whole
kidding.
thing. I had to go buy chalk markers and transfer paper. I mean, I had some of that stuff already because I like to work traditionally.
Yes.
That was one of the things that was so appealing. I was going to get to use Creative Suite and a beautiful Mac and a plotter and a laminator and have my whole office.
Yes.
But at the same time, I was making chalk signs that were going up in the store.
Okay.
And so for about a month, I trained
sale.
and helped make the signs that were going to be permanent in the store. And then I worked for 6 months doing the job at the store once it was opened, which involved making digital signs, making sales signs, making more headers if a spot was, you know, not totally done at opening. And I mean, just
they had your office right there in the grocery store, like in the back?
It's on the second floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
It is. It was.
So you like go down, get a
so
great
cool.
lunch, and then did they give you free food?
It was dangerous. No, we got a discount card.
Okay.
It's dangerous because it's like you spend your paycheck eating all of this delicious food because you're just so close to it and you smell the cookies. It's like
yeah.
But I mean, some of that even was just making sales signs, you know, and like helping the different departments. I really felt like I was there sometimes to be a creative, but also sometimes to assist the departments that were just super swamped with trying to get their, you know, their sales floor area set up on time, and they need somebody to print their sales signs for them. Yeah. So it's a mix of stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about the next gig.
So
if you can.
I don't know if I can or not.
Okay.
I can say that it's going to be that I'm starting with a small creative branding and advertising agency, actually right downtown here.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, but I think it's kind of going to be like, I'm going to start with them, and because it's like going from me working in a corporate space with almost 200 people in a store to an office with 7 people. Okay. And so I think they're going to try me out for a month, and then if it's a good fit for both of us, then maybe I stay on longer depending on the work. I mean, I don't feel as 100% secure in where I am versus when I started at Whole Foods, but look at that, I was laid off. So it's like, I guess the lesson is to not feel secure anywhere and just always be on your game.
Yeah. Just make good work and see what happens.
Yeah.
dream gig? Like, you know, what would be the coolest commission?
Oh, I've thought that out very thoroughly.
Yes.
My dream, I'm going to take it one step further and say dream life.
Yes.
Because I'm very passionate about animal rescue and the environment
Okay.
in general.
Yes.
So dream life would be if I had a beautiful house on several acres of land where I could also be farming and like raising worms and composting. And then I would want to have a rescue and have a studio on the property so that I could rescue animals and help rehabilitate them and then paint them and make illustrations of them and then sell those.
Okay.
So I could keep doing it.
To fund
Yeah.
the
And I know
enterprise.
that this is a real thing. Like, this isn't just crazy talk, because
Sure.
I saw somebody do this on a show on Netflix once. I saw that this was their life, and I was like, perfect. Of course, I feel like if I wasn't doing things for other people, that would be boring, because
Yes.
I need to still be challenged and given
Yeah.
new creative prompts. But
Solve new problems.
yeah,
Yes.
ideally, I would just be painting animals all day and hanging out with them.
It's funny you say that. So we've been here in Florida a couple months. We just came here from Bend, Oregon, where we lived on 10 acres, and I built myself a studio where I was doing the online school. And like, I kid you not, maybe 10 times my wife and I had the discussion of like, should we start bringing more animals onto the property? Because we had like 7 acres of cross-fence pasture, and but then we had 2 small children, so we didn't do it. And
There you go. Yeah, takes priority.
then living out and managing the acreage and doing everything else, we decided to sell it and come back to a more urban setting. But
Yeah.
I think your dream's very, very doable. So I look forward
Thanks.
to coming to visit your farm. Your
My
animal
farm one day, yeah. Catch me in
rescue.
30 years, and hopefully I'll have that all
Yeah.
situated.
Yeah, one
yeah.
day. You know, there's a lot of talk about the cost of art school. One of the reasons we exist and MoGraph Mentor, the online program, exists is to find new alternatives for people that can't necessarily attend a really great art school or can't afford it. Tell me a little bit about your decision to go to Ringling. Did you wrestle with it at all? Was it a no-brainer because of the family legacy, or give me a little insight into your thinking on that.
I felt like I had one shot to sort of just go for it,
Yeah.
and I was gonna apply, and I was gonna get, and I didn't even apply for any other schools,
Okay.
to be completely honest,
Yeah.
which is a very bold choice.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
but they took me, so it was all fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it, and then the money will follow
Yes.
somehow.
Yes.
And it followed from a menagerie of different spots. I applied to
Yeah.
a bunch of scholarships. I had done a lot of volunteering in my high school age years,
Okay.
so that contributed.
Oh, very good.
I do have loans left over, and my dad contributed, and my whole family. It takes a village.
Yes.
Like, I had help from everybody in my family, my mom and my dad, and extended family, whether it was just help
Send you
sending
a few bucks here and there.
yeah, or even just like coming over and like being like, hey, everything's gonna be fine.
Yes.
Even pep talks, like the amount of help that a
Yeah.
person needs is vast.
Yeah.
But I also worked when I was at Ringling. I worked the whole time,
Okay.
and I worked on campus, and I worked their hourly jobs. I worked in the volunteerism department. I worked in human resources. And then I also did scholarship-based jobs where it would provide a financial stipend at the end.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then I was a finalist for their avant-garde scholarship junior year, which is also a financial boost, and all of that helped. But it meant that I was really, really busy, and sometimes I felt like
Sure.
I even had to take away time from making art to do these things that I
Yeah.
knew I had to do to stay at Ringling. And
Yeah.
even still now I have quite the large
got some loans?
loan payment.
Sure.
Yeah. But you know, I wouldn't go and undo anything
Yeah.
because I felt like I learned a whole lot, and I was
Yes.
not an artist before I went to Ringling in the same way
Yeah.
as now I am an artist. But if it were cheaper, yeah, I mean, that would be
Sure.
ideal, because if I hadn't had all of the help that I did, I don't know if I would have been able to go, or I would have been able to finish. And I do have friends who are still there right now who are like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to my senior year. And that's really sad, because their work is phenomenal.
Yeah. What was your favorite part about Ringling? Was it that they helped you, transform in a certain way, become more of an artist? Was it the time you spent with your peers, the connections you made? What do you think is the best part of your 4-year experience?
They push you so hard there, and
Yeah.
it's good. It's so good that they push you, but it's easy to get burned out. It's easy to lose sleep, like lose way too much sleep, and to kind of not prioritize taking care of yourself. And again, and they have the resources there to help you do that, but you know, it can just be like you put on the blinders and you're just like, I gotta finish these assignments. I gotta do it. So yeah, my favorite part actually would probably be the camaraderie I made with just a few people that I really became friends with who were also doing the same thing. Like my best friend was in the computer animation major, and they work, I mean, like we worked hard, but they work real hard because they have to finish a film.
That stuff takes time.
Yeah, that stuff takes time. So I would bring my Cintiq and all of my drawing crap over to her bedroom where she would be working on her computer and we'd be hunched over and just like 3 a.m. listening to scary stories and just working together. And eventually they built the library, which meant that different majors could work together. But at the time it was like if you were a computer animation major, you weren't supposed to be in the illustration lab and vice versa. So we would just, as much as we could, we would just sit in her bedroom and we would just work and burn the midnight oil and, you know, drink 5 pots of coffee. And that bond that we formed was really special, and just having somebody there to push you, because if you don't have anybody to rely on, I feel like that can get to be too much. So having people, like-minded artists all around you, and creative professors, creative students,
So is it fair to say the worst part was just the stress, managing it all? It's a lot of expectation. I mean, it's good they push you. They'd be doing you a disservice if they weren't really like getting the most out of your time.
It's almost like it's a lot of the reality that I experienced, I created in a lot of ways, because you know, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I was internalizing that. And I had a constant feeling of not being good enough to be there, or like I wasn't as good as the people around me. So that was a little hard, but I look at that now and I see that that was actually in some ways healthy. Like obviously I shouldn't have been like, wow, I'm the worst. It shouldn't be like that, but it is good to have a little friendly sense of competition within yourself, to push yourself to do better. Like I never wanted to be stagnant. So I just at the time I felt really burned out. Senior year, I also went through a really bad breakup, and like a lot of life stuff was happening.
Always
and
happens.
I happened to pick really understanding and good teachers for my senior year, and that was important. If I had picked teachers who had not been so understanding and human, then I mean I didn't even know if I was going to graduate. I needed understanding teachers, so I think that was really helpful.
Push you, but also just some grace to like not make it too much. You know, one of the things we talk about in motion design is just this, it's like a golden age of visual communication, like having the skills to understand form and light and color and texture and all of that is just applicable in so many ways now, you know, ways that are just now even being invented. We've got people taking their, you know, skills from 3D into, you know, visual development in VR games and building out apps and doing all this crazy stuff. You know, I see illustrators at almost every part of this, right? There's always some kind of visual development aspect to like any of that stuff. You know, I would think that you have a very bright future with having that skill set. Do you think do you think this is going to take you around the world? Are you trying to stay close to home? Is there like a geographic constraint you're trying to consider for your career?
That is such a tough thing. It's so hard because, well, first off, when I look for illustration jobs, I don't see that. You know, I see jobs with other titles, and it's like it's more graphic design, or it is concept art, or it's you know, development. And I know Creative Suite, but as far as those animating softwares, I don't know that as much. So it's like really hard to kind of find the jobs that line up with my skill set, which probably means I need to learn more skills, and I'm young, so that's fine. I can learn more skills.
People are creating their own positions now too, in some sense.
Yeah.
But
I would definitely move if there was the right job to move. I don't think if you're an artist and you're just starting out, especially, like, you can afford to be picky about where you want to live. Like, I got lucky that I got an art job, it happening to be 10 minutes from my house. That's not the normal experience. But yes, I would absolutely move for the right job, but that's kind of a double-edged sword thing too, because, you know, if you're applying to a job across the country, they're going to look at local candidates before they consider you. And I do know some people in my class who graduated and went straight to LA or went straight to New York, and they were like, I don't have a job yet, but I'm going to figure it out. You know, I'm not in a position where I can do that. And also that sounds terrifying. So they're brave and good for them. But
I mean, it is a reality how some industries are concentrated in certain areas.
But I would move, and I mean, I don't want to necessarily live in Florida forever because it's beautiful here, but I have to go experience something else to be a well-rounded person, right?
Sure. I do hear that's true.
Yeah.
Cari, thank you so much for being willing to come in and sit down and answer some questions. We'll definitely, I want to dive into your portfolio some more, check out your work, and
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been a great time.